years anyway, sewer costs more than we're collecting in revenue.
Yes. So I'm going to back up.
So at this point, we really need to raise rates to in effect break even.
Yes, yes. Currently in 2011, if you took your annual revenues under your current rates, less your expenditures, it's a deficit position. So as you can see in this bar, even with the proposed rates, you can see that in 2011 you're still not recovering your full costs. We're using reserves to cover that gap, and that's taking essentially up until the second to last year in the study period to fix that by smoothing in the rate increases. The other alternative would have been to instantly do a significantly higher rate increase in 2011 to get up to, like you say, get it up past the break-even point, and then going forward.
And refresh my memory on water, on potable water, drinking water.
Water currently is the revenues are greater than the expenditures, and so it's not in the same situation. The brief change is that there has been the history of using system development charges to pay for part of the debt service. So I'm going to zip to that, whatever page it's on. Okay, so if we can see here on 18, see where the red line is? Right now it's covering the blue and the green, which means it's currently covering the operating expenditures plus existing debt. Those other columns haven't happened yet, so that tells you that currently water is about right on, but then you stop using the system development charge revenues. You can see in 2012 beyond where it drops a little bit below the existing debt, so it's going to fall behind. Without any rate increases, it falls behind this current year.
And stormwater may be too new to actually do that calculation.
Yeah, I mean, we have the information, but essentially what stormwater was is expenditures were unfunded. Expenditures got capped, and that would be for storm. One of the reasons why we're showing that there is an increase in operating expenditures is because we are, what page am I on? So you can see the bump in the blue line is going up more than just inflation like in 2013, because we are adding things that have been deferred. So I guess I would say in storm it was deferred or unfunded cost because of where the rate was set.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments?
Rod, Jennifer? Good news is the numbers I have in here this year are lower than the estimates were last year. The bad news is there's still increases. Staff, Trevor, Dave?
Just a summary comment. As was mentioned, there'll be a final report from the team that will come, but what you can expect would be a recommendation, an ordinance to implement at one time the rate plan over the study period, which I think is a preferable approach from an underwriter's perspective. They like to see that stability and that commitment to the utility funds, and that maybe can help us do a little better on interest rates if it can. Knowing that with that implementation, we continue to work on maybe re-engineering, if you would, the whole rate model approach and the type of rate system that we use, which wouldn't be intended to change the total amount of revenue that comes in. The revenue needs are still the revenue needs, but it potentially would bring a different approach to different classes of users. Much more complicated, lots of information, and it's not an across-the-board type of scenario. So in that type of a situation, you could see rates for one class of user going up fairly significantly, but for another class of user going down, but it would be based on rational approach. Other communities are looking at that approach. The approach we currently have, across the board is also obviously very, very common as well. I guess one other summary statement, I think, Paul, you tried to capture that in a couple of your questions. It seems like Utilities have ridden the growth wave for a little while over the last few years with the SDCs and a lot of connection charges, and that revenue's not there. So it has an impact on as we move forward. And the introduction of the prudent practices around that Dave was alluding to, I think just informs what's necessary, but it's difficult because the numbers are pretty high.
Awful lot of numbers, an awful lot of information here. And I guess in your final report that you're gonna give us, or otherwise we need to get it from Jennifer or Trevor, just wanna see what the dollars are, the increase. And that's what we have to tell the citizens, that's what they're gonna come and ask us for. The percentages, everybody has to do the math, and I'm just, what we're paying today and what we're gonna be paying tomorrow if we implement this. So, does that come out in your
We can,
final?
yes, we can put together some sample bills. So we were working on those in conjunction with the cost of service, and so didn't bring them forward. But yeah, it would show what someone's bill is under their existing rate and what their bill would be under the proposed. But for all cases, since we are just doing across the board, it's the same answer of what the rate increase was. But if you want to see the actual bill, so everyone's rate in water, for example, will be going up 13.5%. Is that $2 or $3 is what you're looking for? So certainly we will have graphics in the report that will show that for varying levels of usage.
And all the comments that the council has made tonight, I think they're legitimate questions and everything, but the bottom line is everybody, you know, the fixed income people are gonna wanna know why, and the high-end users are gonna wanna know how much that's gonna equate to. Economic development people are gonna wanna know what this is gonna amount to. We have to have that answer.
Sure. Yep, that will be included.
So the recommendation we're gonna bring forward is to adopt all 5 years of increases as set forth. We'll still, annually though, we'll still go in and do an internal needs assessment to make sure that we're still on track and that number isn't inflated by something we've dropped out or any of that.
Right.
So tracking our projections for revenue, and then Karen had mentioned earlier on the cost of service model in 11, bringing that back with all the specifics and criteria that goes with that for potentially reworking not only municipal code, but how the rates are structured. So,
One of the really the primary reason for the recommendation being to take that prospective action and do multiple years so that the rates happen as they go was based on the comments that I forget his name.
Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson.
Oh, Jim
came-
Nelson.
Jim Nelson came and talked about underwriting practices and what underwriters are looking at when they look at municipalities and their utilities, and he strongly recommended, probably in the strongest way that he could in that context, recommended that you take that type of action to position ourselves for the best underwriting that we could get. So that would be the basis for, not doing it year by year, but we would be back if the capital program changes or slows down and speeds up, or revenues change from what was projected, or the economic indicators change, like growth, which would have an impact. We certainly can update it.
This is, of course, this is my chance to ask, and so I'm gonna need to ask you before you get out of here, but the part about the implications of Lane versus Seattle, I didn't know that we had a fire protection cost recovery within our budget. I wasn't aware of that.